Something ancient and elusive has settled within you, something you haven't been able to name. It's a quiet unease, a gnawing feeling in your gut, an exhausting fatigue that has nothing to do with physical exertion. No, it's not stress, and it's not anxiety. It's something different, something deeper. This is the consequence of yielding too often, of bowing your head for too long, forgetting what it's like to look straight ahead. And the most terrifying part is that you've grown accustomed to it. You were taught to be silent, to endure, to not stand out. You were led to believe that if you were good, understanding, and patient, everything would eventually work out. But that was a cruel and cynical lie. In reality, you transformed into an emotional sponge, absorbing others' problems that they simply brushed aside. You became an easy target for toxic behavior that gradually eroded your self-esteem, making you doubt your own worth. Now, when something causes you discomfort, you're unsure. Is this a normal reaction, or have you simply become too sensitive? I'll let you in on a secret. It's not about sensitivity, it's intuition. It's your mind desperately screaming for salvation. Carl Jung saw this before anyone else. He dedicated his life to exploring the depths of the human psyche, and what he discovered horrified him. Most of our suffering isn't born from global tragedies, but from what we allow ourselves to endure daily, from tiny doses of poison, from overlooked gestures, from relationships we habitually deem normal, from boundaries we dare not uphold. Jung brilliantly noted, what we don't resist remains within us, and what nests within slowly but surely corrodes us. This video is not designed to lull you into comfort. Its purpose isn't to make you feel pleasantly warm, it's meant to pull you out of hibernation, to make you open your eyes, so that you can see with ruthless clarity the 7 types of behavior that Jung considered absolutely unacceptable, not because they are immoral, but because they pose a direct threat to your self-identity, your integrity, your mental well-being. They are like termites, silently and stealthily undermining you from within. And one day, looking in the mirror, you might discover with horror that you don't recognize your reflection at all. But be vigilant. These behaviors don't wear bright labels. They don't scream about their danger. They don't appear before you as monsters. On the contrary, they are skillfully disguised as love, friendship, care, humor, and if you lose vigilance, you risk taking them at face value. And once you accept it, it starts repeating over and over, and each repetition feels like it tears away a piece of your soul. This is why you're here, not out of mere curiosity or for entertainment. Something inside you screams, enough. You can't swallow it anymore. It's time to call things by their names, to bring out what you've carried for so long. It's time to stop allowing it. And no, it's not just about others. It also concerns you, because you yourself have exhibited similar behavior, and that's why it hurts so much. Not only do you suffer from it, but you also repeat these patterns, not because you're a bad person, but because no one taught you to recognize it. No one told you this is also a form of abuse, that it distances you from yourself. But today you will see it. Today, step by step, you will discover what Jung so persistently tried to warn us about. And when this video ends, you won't be able to look at some people, or even yourself, the same way. Yes, it will be painful, but it will also bring liberation. Ready? Because once you take the first step, there will be no turning back. Sometimes the smallest sparks can ignite a flame that consumes us from within. It all begins with small things, an innocent gesture, a vague phrase, unsolicited advice, seemingly trivial. But when it repeats again and again, when we allow it to take root, this small thing becomes habitual, commonplace. It's at this moment that we begin to lose our true selves. We turn into puppets, molded by others' hands, while we naively believed we were shaping our own destiny. Carl Jung once warned us against a cunning enemy, hidden emotional manipulation. It doesn't burst into our lives with thunder and shouts, nor does it shackle us with chains. It creeps in quietly, enveloping us in false tenderness, hiding behind hypocritical phrases disguised as care. I'm only saying this for your own good. If you really loved me, you'd do things differently. I don't understand why you're reacting so strongly to this. And that's when the doubts begin. First, we question the situation itself, then our own perception, and ultimately we begin to doubt ourselves, our sanity. After all, a skilled manipulator doesn't need to impose their will. They merely need to plant a seed of doubt within us, and we will destroy ourselves from within. This isn't love, nor is it friendship. It's control, cleverly veiled under the guise of affection. And the most frightening thing is that this poison often comes from those we love, making it even more dangerous as we naively mistake devotion for obedience. Jung once acutely observed, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And what could be better than shaping another's soul to avoid confronting your own? Emotional manipulation flourishes in silence, in misunderstood upbringing, in the fear of losing another. But the true loss is the loss of oneself. And once you've been sufficiently tamed, when the manipulator is sure you won't retaliate, that your resistance is broken, they move on to the next stage. Not content with shaping your mind, they seek to distort your image in the eyes of others, and they do it in the most despicable way, through laughter. Because when control is no longer enough, the next, more sophisticated tactic comes into play. A more agonizing, more public, more perverse humiliation, hidden under the guise of humor. It's not a direct insult, it's just a carelessly tossed comment, a sneer disguised by a smile, a phrase said seemingly in jest, but with a blade that mercilessly slices your soul. And then, a burst of laughter, everyone around erupts, but in your soul, only coldness. And you, like a puppet, pull the strings of a smile, forcing yourself to laugh because you know, if you remain serious, the labels bitter, outsider, no sense of humor will stick to you forever. The trap has sprung. If you show your pain, you'll be the only one blamed. If you remain silent, you'll give evil a green light. And each of these jokes, like a small nail hammered into the fragile board of your self-esteem. Jung wisely said that the unconscious sees no difference between play and reality. What is repeated takes root deep in our soul. Therefore, mockery, seemingly so harmless, is actually a veiled form of abuse. It's a way to humiliate you, to put you a step lower, to brand you as the weak link in the pack. And the most terrible thing, those who most often resort to these poisonous jabs are themselves deeply unhappy and insecure. They use laughter as a weapon, trying to hide their inner emptiness. They attack others because their own shadow whispers to them of their insignificance. But you are not obligated to become a target for their inner demons. You came into this world not to be a trash can for others' unprocessed emotions. But allow this to happen just once, allow this normality, and you unwittingly open the gates to something far more horrifying. Because when a person feels impunity in their mockery, the next step becomes something more sophisticated, subtle, psychologically calculated, and thus unbearably painful. They begin to methodically undermine the foundation of your perception, sowing seeds of doubt in your own sanity. And this is where we enter the sinister territory of gaslighting. This is when yesterday's words are suddenly denied, and you are accused of fabricating things and fantasizing. Your feelings are devalued with scornful remarks like, "That never happened," "You're exaggerating as always," "You always make a drama out of nothing." But the most frightening thing about gaslighting isn't what they say to you. It's what begins to happen inside you, because your mind, desperately trying to survive, starts adapting to someone else's blatant lies. Jung called this internal betrayal, that very moment when you stop trusting yourself, when you doubt your own feelings, your memories, your intuition, you get lost in a labyrinth of others' distortions. You become a prisoner of another's mind, a mind that manipulates yours, distorts it, and does so with such skill that you don't even realize how you are gradually losing yourself. Gaslighting is an invisible yet destructive war. There's no roar of battle, no bloodshed, just an ominous fog of doubt that subtly permeates your soul until you are utterly lost, unsure where the root of evil lies, within yourself or in the universe you allowed to be created around you. And here it is, the most soul-chilling trick. When they succeed in sowing this chaos in your mind, when you can no longer distinguish truth from lies, they move on to a monstrous act. They use your vulnerability against you. We're talking about the fourth stage, systematic emotional invalidation. You share what causes you pain, and they dismiss it with contempt, as if it were trash. You try to explain your feelings, and in response, you hear mockery and dismissiveness. Oh, here you go again. It's nothing. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? You always overcomplicate everything. Every time someone dismisses your inner world, it's as if they're screaming in your face. Your emotions are a burden. They're annoying. They're excessive. You're taught to feel less, be quieter, less noticeable, and gradually you learn to suppress your feelings, swallow your grievances, remain silent so as not to bother others. Thus, you transform into a distorted reflection of yourself, into a person who lives only for the comfort of those around them. Familiar, isn't it? Jung was right. Suppressed emotions are ticking time bombs. They don't dissolve into nothingness. Instead, they fester, poisoning us from within, manifesting as debilitating anxiety, sleepless nights, explosive anger, or causeless melancholy. They mutate, distorting our true self, leading us further and further away from who we once were. But the emotional torment doesn't end with manipulation, mockery, and invalidation. After these blows comes the coldest, most calculated, and destructive tactic: silent contempt. That icy stare, that gesture of disdain, that deliberate ignoring, the complete lack of response, the surgically precise erasure of you from their world. They don't raise their voice, they don't humiliate with insults. They simply cross you out as if you never existed, but you do exist. You scream inside, torn apart by pain, realizing they are punishing you with their silence. Every minute lived in this silence is another bleeding wound inflicted upon your need for human connection. And it's here that many break, because contempt needs no explanation. It simply drags you down into the abyss of despair. It drains your soul, making you feel like a grain of sand in a boundless desert, an insignificant shadow whose existence depends on an answer that will never come. And if you've reached this threshold, if you've endured without breaking, without exploding in despair, know this: you are no longer the same. Trust has evaporated, words catch in your throat, feelings are dulled. Do you understand where this leads? Jung warned, what you deny enslaves you. What you accept transforms. And all this pain, all this suffering you've endured, that's what subjugates you. But the story isn't over yet. Ahead lie two of the most dangerous, most insidious manifestations. If you don't recognize them in time, they won't just destroy you, but will turn you into one of them. Ready to go on? Because the darkness deepens from here. Up until now, we've talked about what they do to you, how they mold, distort, and pervert your perception of reality. But what awaits ahead isn't just an attack on you, it's an infection, a poison that, if you don't act in time, will permeate your hands, your decisions, your worldview. Self-destruction disguised as virtue. How sacrifice changes us. It doesn't just harm, it transforms you, subtly, gradually. This is the sixth rule, the most insidious, covered by the guise of benevolence, praised by society, the normalization of self-sacrifice. From childhood we are taught, to yield means to love, to put others before oneself is noble. Self-sacrifice is a sign of maturity. And so, step by step, you learn to disappear, to relegate yourself to the background of your own life. But there's a bitter truth that hurts more than any rejection. Not everything done out of love heals. Not everything endured for the sake of peace brings peace. Sometimes what you call sacrifice is merely submission, fear, a habit of living at half strength without revealing your true self. Jung, the great psychologist, deeply understood this. He spoke of the self as the core of our psyche, the center defining our essence. And everything that pulls you away from this center, everything that suppresses your true desires, impulses, violates your boundaries, all of this breaks you into pieces, shatters your integrity. You turn into a distorted reflection of your former self, a shadow of who you could have been. But the world rejoices, applauding you for your compliance, for not causing problems, always ready to help. And no one will ask the crucial question, when will it be your turn? When will you get to yourself? He raises his eyebrows questioningly, as if awaiting an answer that isn't there. Eternal self-sacrifice is not love, but rather a painful self-denial. And the most terrifying thing about it is that by making it a part of your personality, you simply lose yourself. So what happens when a person completely dissolves, when their voice falls silent, their center blurs, and their boundaries disappear? This is what happens. The seventh final fall, accepting contempt as payment for the illusion of belonging. This is the end of the road, the deepest abyss of despair. After endless manipulation, humiliation, mental fog, invalidation, silence, and self-denial, you arrive at a monstrous conclusion. Belonging at any cost is better than being alone with your truth, with your soul. And you resign yourself. Your shoulders slump. You grasp crumbs from the master's table. You endure systematic rejection as if it were your destiny. You find excuses where there can be none. And the most tragic thing, you convince yourself that the problem is with you, that you deserve this humiliating treatment, that you are unworthy of more, of better. Your eyes dim, sparks of hope fade. Jung called this state psychic death, a complete severance from oneself. It's the moment when a person no longer resists, no longer questions, no longer feels sharp pain. They simply survive. Like a broken doll who has lost all hope for happiness. He seems to take root in the soil of mistreatment, convinced that there is nothing beyond this swamp. That contempt is the currency you pay for the right not to be alone in this world. That icy indifference is better than the echoing emptiness of being unnoticed. But this is a lie. Emptiness. Heed every word. Nothing, do you hear? Nothing in this world is worth betraying your soul daily. Loneliness is a heavy burden, that's true, but to drag out an existence surrounded by shadows, greedily devouring your light, that is true hell. You came into this world not to humbly beg for crumbs of recognition. Your mission is to live in harmony with yourself, to take your rightful place under the sun without asking anyone for permission. To rise from the ashes like a phoenix after allowing yourself to be trampled. And if these lines resonate in your heart, if every word echoes with pain, it means you know. You feel it in your gut how each of these poisonous actions has left a scar on your soul. Perhaps not all of them, perhaps not always, but you know that bitter taste, looking in the mirror and seeing a stranger, an unfamiliar person before you. You know what it's like to clench your teeth and stay silent just to avoid hurting someone's fragile feelings. You know what it's like to shrink and feel insignificant where, by right, you should shine in the full splendor of your true essence. Now you know. You can no longer deny it. Can't say you didn't know. 7 deadly habits, 7 soul-poisoning venoms, 7 ways to destroy yourself with your own hands. Jung didn't create a self-destruction manual. He left us a warning, like a distant siren's wail piercing through a thick fog. So, what will you do knowing all of this? Here's the paradox. Most people, even after realizing the full depth of the problem, won't budge. They'll return to their familiar, rotten environment. They'll dive back into toxic relationships. They'll continue to betray themselves again and again, following the well-worn path. Why? Because it's easier that way. Because it's more painful to wake up than to confront the gaping void of authentic existence. But if you've reached this point, if you've listened to every word, every pause, every shadow, you are not the majority. A spark is igniting within you. Do you feel it? It's a faint flame whispering, "Enough." You don't yet know how to act. You don't have ready answers, but you feel in your gut that something inside you is yearning for freedom. And this is where the real work begins. Not pointing fingers at others, not becoming a judge or a professional victim, but observing, looking with a sober gaze, being absolutely, ruthlessly honest with yourself. Where were your boundaries trampled? Whom have you desperately tried to whitewash in your own eyes? What part of yourself did you sacrifice just to stay within the circle of the accepted? This isn't a motivational video. This is a ruthless mirror of truth. And if your own reflection scares you, the problem isn't the reflection itself, but your hesitation to face your true self. Listen carefully. If you decide to change, if you put an end to self-destruction, prepare for losses. You will lose things, people, familiar connections, comfortable routines. But don't be fooled. You won't lose anything that wasn't already draining the life out of you. Each loss will become a healing purification, and what remains after will be authentic, yours, unshakable, that which no one can destroy without your consent. Carl Jung didn't create for applause. He sought to awaken the sleeping, and today you have done just that. You've opened your eyes. Don't you dare close them now. Don't pretend you didn't notice what you saw. Don't betray yourself at this most critical moment, for there is something that is not spoken aloud, but which you are about to realize. True strength lies not in gaining universal approval, but in no longer needing it. Now, turn off your screen, but don't let the flame that just ignited in your soul die out. Walk through life with more confidence. Look at the world with new interest. Don't waste yourself, and breathe life in fully. Remember, once awakened, you will no longer be able to sleep until you come face to face with your next shadow, or until you yourself decide to challenge it.